Hey everyone, Margie Walden here. I'm excited to be here with you today to tell you about a YouTube channel that I'm launching. It's called Piece of Mind, spelled Piece of Mind. And basically, what it's going to do is provide you with a series of firearms training videos. And what has inspired me to do so is a couple of things. I'll often get some callers that want to take a CPL class and they don't know anything about guns, don't even own a firearm. And so the series is going to basically be anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes of videos on different topics. So obviously we're going to start out with firearm safety first, and then we'll go into some like how to properly select a handgun, because a lot of times people don't own a gun prior to coming class. And so I tell them to hold off because they're going to get a lot of information in the class. And I end up letting them just use one of mine to get through the basic CPL class. And then we're going to cover some basic shooting fundamentals, some clearing, loading, reloading kind of things, just some very basic things that you should know prior to coming to a concealed carry class. And then also it'll serve as a refresher for those that do take your concealed carry class, because when you do take that, it's an 8-hour course and you're just inundated with information, and it's like drinking from a fire hose. You're not going to be expected to remember it all, right? And you're likely not going to remember it all. And so it will satisfy that as well. And then there's a stat out there that indicates that like less than 1% of people in Michigan will actually take a course or any kind of training beyond the what is required by law, which is your basic CPL class. And that's very disturbing for me, because that means either you're not training at all, or you're training on your own and just don't know how well that's working out either. And so I know the two biggest reasons for that are often time and then also money. So this series of videos is going to be free, and so takes that off the plate. And then the time, you're just going to have to make the time and make it a priority. But 10 or 15 minutes a day, you can make time for that. And it's going to be convenient because you can do it at the convenience of your location and your schedule. So no more excuses, right? So we're taking all of that off the table. Picasso has one of my favorite quotes, and it is, the meaning of life is to find your gift, and the purpose is to give it away. And so that is my contribution um, for that piece. And so I just want to be able to give back to society. I want a well-armed society, but I also want a well-armed, safe society. So we're going to cover all of those things that'll get you there and make you safe. But before I begin that, I think I'd be remiss as an instructor if I didn't cover at least a mental health issue in the series. And so September is Suicide Awareness Month. Sadly, it only gets a month. It should be a daily thing that we are checking on others, and but also ourselves, right? Self-awareness with regards to suicide, because it's something that certainly we are all vulnerable or susceptible to suicidal thoughts. I think that life isn't always going to be a bed of roses. We're going to go through some struggles and some ups and downs. And I don't think all of us are fully equipped with everything that we need to sometimes deal with some of those things. Anything from, loss of a loved one, relationship, finances, health, even, right? Health issues sometimes, even mental health issues, some trauma with regards to sexual assault or even assault, sometimes drug or alcohol use, right? Even sometimes some things that maybe we have done and we're ashamed of, or we can't learn to forgive ourselves for. And then even with military members, PTSD, right? But PTSD, believe it or not, is 100% curable if you get the right treatment. But you got to take the steps and you've got to be proactive. I know that there's a stat out there that the number one fear that people have is public speaking. But I think the hardest thing for people to do is not public speak, but to ask for help, especially my military friends, because a lot of us are type A and we're very proud, and we sometimes have been under the mindset that by asking for help, it's somehow a sign of weakness, or we're showing weakness, right? And so we don't want to do that. I know that I was brought up in the 80s, and mental health, you just didn't talk about those kind of things, right? Especially being in a military police unit, you end up on a rubber gun squad, on the crazy train with cuckoo birds, and it was just a weakness, right? And so there was that kind of mindset, and I have a military and corrections background where you just, you don't talk about those things, you leave it at the door. And I think now we're transitioning to, with the new millennials, like it's almost taboo if you don't have some kind of counselor or haven't been through some counseling, right? And so we're definitely headed in the right direction, but I think that also a lot of times people, they'll have those suicidal thoughts, and then they get so bad and so deep into those that they end up not reaching out and getting the proper help, and that's when it becomes bad, when you take those thoughts and they become actions and you start acting on those thoughts, right? And so preventative, it's the one thing that is 100% preventable. Suicide is preventable. And it's just a matter of being self-aware, and then also being aware of others around us and helping them and reaching out. I know a lot of times I see people, they'll put the banners up for the Suicide Awareness Month and the ribbons and the 22 a day, and it's like, to me that's like throwing the trauma kit at somebody that's having an artillery bleed, like, here, help yourself, I got it. And I get it, it's awareness, it is showing that there are some hotlines out there and some things to do, but it's also saying, I really don't give a crap, here, help yourself, right? It's not like a help yourself kind of thing. We should look out for each other. I think it's the most important topic and the most important training that we get in the military is sexual assault awareness and suicide awareness. And so instead of just putting up a banner and throwing up some ribbon or wearing around a ribbon, I wanted to do something a step further. And so I just wanted to reach out to some of my peeps and say that, we all go through stuff. It's not always going to be, when you're in the storm, it seems like there's no getting out and it's never going to get better. But I promise you, the sun will shine again and things will eventually get better. For those of you who've been through crap storms before, you know that eventually it does get better. It's the ugly part that you got to get through and you got to push, but it takes an effort, and you have to make that effort. And you can't just stay doing what you're doing. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Well, if you're in a state of mind where you're constantly depressed and you can't, and these thoughts just keep happening in your head and you're not doing anything to help that, then you're not going to get any better. So you need to take those first steps. And I know for military members, we have a variety of resources at our disposal. You have your director of psychology, you have chaplains, you have hotlines, you have Military One Source. It's completely free for counseling for you, even if you're going through stuff about a family member and you don't know how to cope with. All of those resources are there and available for you. Use them. They're great resources. I know that my brother committed suicide in 1999. We buried him on a Sunday. I left for a military training for 2 weeks on that Monday. I pretty much buried those feelings and pressed on. And like I said, I worked in corrections, so shift work, afternoons, holidays, yucky stuff. I just pressed on with my life, stayed busy. And I finally got a full-time job working where I'm working now, full-time for the military, again, with a normal schedule, somewhat normal, right? Working days and having weekends and holidays off again, most of them. And I love my job. And 10 years later, so we're talking '09, I was out. I remember we get paid to PT, and I was out running around the base and just started feeling real sluggish and down, and things started bothering me, and I didn't know what was going on. I kind of went into this slump, I would say, not depression, but somewhat of a anxiety, and I didn't know what was going on with me, and I'm gonna run it off. So I run twice a day. I was running 6, sometimes 10 miles a day, and it just wasn't helping. I'm like, something's wrong with me, and so everybody's probably laughing at this point, going, "Yeah, we all knew that," but there was something just not feeling. I didn't feel right. I didn't feel happy and like I'm normally, and I just was a little emotionally and mentally down in the dumps. And so then I started like trying to reach out and pray more and reach out to God and say, what's going on, try to help me there. That didn't work. I tried journaling. I was like, everything. And then finally I'm like, counseling. I just didn't believe in counseling. I was like, what is a counselor who knows nothing about me or doesn't care about me? How are they going to be able to help? I don't even know what's wrong with me, right? But I ended up using Military One Source. I found a great counselor, and it did help me. I didn't end up dealing with my brother's loss, and so I learned the steps of grieving, and it just you know, kind of helped me understand what I was going through and what, and I got to a happier place now again, and it worked for me. But again, I was of that mindset. You don't ask for help, you know. That was just for rich, desperate housewives back in my time, and they just, you know, they were just doing it because they had lots of money and they could get counseling. But what I'm telling you is that if you're in that state of mind, don't be afraid to reach out. Don't be afraid to reach out to your coworkers. A lot of times we don't address that elephant in the room because we're afraid that we're gonna, you know, take the scab off, right? Or we're gonna set that thought into somebody's mind. Trust me, if they're there and they're thinking that way, you're not gonna make it any worse by addressing it. Come straight out and ask them. I know I've done it with a few people, both that I work for and, you know, family members. So just come straight out and ask them. And at one point, I even actually called the suicide hotline because I was across the state with one of the people that I had reached out to after they admitted to me, and the suicide hotline was willing to call them, and they did. And you know, it kind of helped them because they had that third party perspective, somebody that they could confide in and didn't have to come back on them because it's completely confidential. So again, September, it's not September, it's a daily thing, it's a daily self-check. You know, they say 22 is too many, one is too many. So look out for yourselves, look out for each other, and have a blessed day, and I look forward to seeing you all again, and hopefully you enjoy this series of videos. Take care. Be safe.